Well, the Space Science Experiment Program is a program that NASA originated some years ago to give students an opportunity to really push their thinking and coming up with an experiment that can be flown on the International Space Station with the results potentially impacting for the good the quality of life not only here on Earth, but also the future in outer space.
Each of the teams of 2, 3, 4, 5 people got together to create an experiment and a proposal, and one of the selections out of the 8th to 11th grade would go aboard the ISS.
The experiment will be conducted by the astronauts on the International Space Station, and at the same time, our students here at Bullis will conduct a ground truth experiment. That experiment will be identical, and it will give our students the opportunity to compare their experiment here with gravity versus on the International Space Station in microgravity.
It came about from Kerry Wisnosky, who's one of the board members at Bullis. His business is a contractor to NASA. He's worked with other schools that have been involved in the SSEP project. So he brought it to our attention, and we ran with it.
So all of our students in grades 8 through 11 had the opportunity to group up.
They researched a topic that relates to microgravity. From there, they designed an investigative question.
And they formulated an experiment that would see how different processes here on Earth were changed by conducting it in microgravity.
And I tried to encourage them to really find topics where they could get data that would be useful for future space exploration.
The tube that they used to conduct the experiment was 6 inches long. It could hold a total of 10 milliliters of liquids and samples. So they needed something very small that could then be extrapolated out.
So the students actually really get a research experience that's much more genuine in many respects than what you get when you're handed a lab sheet and asked to do a lab. They also have to be able to write. So they have to be able to put together their ideas according to really a government format, very similar to a grant format.
It's no different than what I do in business every day. They had to interpret requirements from a potential customer, and they had to put forth a compelling argument of why their solution was beneficial to the customer. And I think that's a really, really valuable skill process for all those teams that participated in here at Bullis that you don't get often until you're all the way through college.
The proposals were then submitted to our Step 1 review board. They chose the top 3 out of our entire school. It was then sent to the SSEP Step 2 review board, who chose the top proposal.
We're testing the growth of an aloe vera seed.
We think it'll help it grow better based on other experiments.
Our experiment proposal was a bacteria called Shewanella onidensis, and it basically removes metal ions from water.
If we wanted to colonize on Mars and start building, it would help clean and filter the water so we could reuse it instead of finding new water, which wouldn't be very helpful because there's not much of it.
We want to send fish eggs up into space and test to see if development in microgravity in complex organisms is affected. Our hypothesis is that without gravity, the bone structure and muscles won't be able to develop as well. So this could help us to see how humans would develop in space.
So I hope the students gained an appreciation and a better understanding of what goes on behind the scenes in the work of a research scientist. And even further, I hope that this type of work and this process inspired the students so that perhaps it could be a direction for a future career path.
Designing these experiments is a great way to get students already thinking about doing things that are going to have an impact in the future for mankind. I think that's wonderful.